Tonight we're reviewing the contents of the Special Guest box by Paul Bonner. The first character we're going to be looking at tonight is Milzar. Let's look at his inventory slot real quick. This slot may hold Death Strike instead. Death Strike's a pretty cool spell, but the only problem I kind of have with this is once you get to Inferno, if you're only playing one caster, when would you use Death Strike over Inferno? I don't know offhand. If you know of a scenario in which Death Strike would trump Inferno, let me know. But I'm kind of meh about this inventory slot. Early in the game, if you find Death Strike, yeah, it'd be pretty cool. But I assume you're going to have Inferno in one hand and maybe Speed or Healing or Repulse in the other hand, and then you wouldn't care that Death Strike was over here. So his slot's kind of meh. But when you look at his blue, he gets one free magic action. That's cool, because at level 1, he could, in theory, throw out 4 attacks. At level 2, the yellow level, he would get +1 action. He could be tossing 5 spells a turn. That would be pretty awesome if he was stationary. He'd be like a little gun turret. In orange, you get +1 free combat action or spellbook. So in theory, you could be throwing 6 attacks a turn once you get to orange. Spellbook's another thing I feel kind of meh about. If you're doing a whole lot of searching and you have a lot of spells and you wanted to be able to cast them all and not worry about what's equipped, Spellbook's awesome. What Spellbook does, it lets you cast things from your bag as though it were in your hands, which is great. But I mean, really, how many spells are you going to need to have handy at once? There are games where Repulse saved the day or Healing saved the day. But if I really need those spells to save the day, I'm just going to put them on another character. I +1 free combat action. Blow things up. That's my opinion. Alright, once you get to the red level, Lucky's amazing. You get to reroll anything you want. Even if you've already rerolled it for a different reason, you get to reroll it again. Marksman, you don't have to worry about shooting your friends. And if you shoot far away at a cell, you don't have to follow the targeting priority. You can just blow up what you want to blow up. So that's a pretty cool skill. But then we get to Spellcaster. And I would probably say Spellcaster, Lucky. Oh, well, all of these are pretty good. But my thing is Spellcaster is just fun. I'm not sure that I would always take it. But just the idea that you could throw 7 attacks a turn would be amazing. But I'm pretty sure Lucky trumps Spellcaster because 6 awesome attacks that you get to reroll, I think Lucky's probably better. But just the idea of having somebody that can throw out 7 shots with Inferno a turn is pretty fun. But I think any of these 3 red choices are great. It just depends on what kind of game you're having, if you're with your friends, if you're not, if you're worried about hitting things, if the board's overrun by walkers and you can't take down the abominations. He's very versatile at the end. This guy's fun. I don't play him, so that's where you decide how awesome I think he is. He's not in my party. But he's one of those characters that I think is very powerful. So if you're looking for somebody that just can throw out mass amounts of fire every turn, this is your guy. He's pretty cool. He also looks pretty awesome. He's got the scythe and a spellbook. He's got swords on his belt. He's just a pretty cool looking guy, and the concept of just throwing out 7 attacks with Inferno a turn, you could just mow down the field. He seems kind of fun. Alright, out of this box, the 3 that I'm reviewing, my friend's going to review the 4th. This is the character I'm kind of the most not psyched about. This slot may hold a great sword. Yeah, great sword's okay. I mean, it's not one of my go-to items. It needs 5s to hit, but you roll 5 dice. But then if you look at his blue, he's got +1 dice roll melee. Okay, so now he's hitting on 4s with a great sword, so that's pretty awesome. I like that. I would like it more if this guy was able to get Sword Master, where he could dual wield great swords, but he can't. So the inventory slot, I think, is mediocre. Alright, yellow, +1 action, just like everybody else. At orange, he can get +1 free melee action, or Ironhide. And though I love Ironhide, because it's pretty cool, how that works is if you get bit, you act like you have 5+ armor. If you're wearing armor, you get to add 1 to your roll to check that armor. So that's a pretty cool defensive. But there are some other characters out there that get access to 2 defensives. And I really would prefer, if I'm going to be playing a tank, I want him to be a tank. Like this guy gets Ironhide, that's fairly tanky. But if I had a somebody that could get Ironhide and Tough, which I believe Glinda. That's her name. That's her name, I believe. Glinda can get Ironhide and Tough, and that's just more tanky, in my opinion. So if I'm going to play a tank, I want to play a tank. This guy, if he took Ironhide, he'd be a cross between a DPS and a tank, and that's just not my thing. I either want somebody that just rocks, that's a rock star in damage, or is a rock star at tanking. So just because I brought her up, I'm going to move him aside for a second. And see, this is what I'm talking about. Glinda gets Tough. So the first wound that comes in each zombie phase, she gets to ignore it. And then she gets access to Ironhide later. Two really awesome tanking abilities. If I want a tank, I want a tank. Alright, at red level, this guy can get Bloodlust melee, being able to move to and hit. That's pretty cool. On 6s, he gets to roll another dice. If he's rolling a lot of dice from his greatsword, that might come in handy. He also gets Shove, which is kind of a defensive, but not enough a defensive to make me happy. If zombies are in his cell, he can take an action, and he can push them away one cell, and then do whatever he wants. That's really cool to get out of a bad situation. But he doesn't get it till red, so he's got to live that long in the first place. And again, this guy is a good cross between a tank and a melee DPS. It's just, I don't like crosses. I want to be one or the other. Alright, let's look at his model real quick. He's got this great sword behind him, although, so he's holding this great sword over his shoulder, but it doesn't really look like a great sword because he's a dwarf. I'm thinking it's just a normal sword, but to him it's a great sword. And he's got either a dagger or a short sword on his back and a canteen. He looks, this is the pretty generic dwarf pose, and I think his model's okay. I'm just not too psyched about his stat line. Alright, the last character we're going to be looking at is Genevieve, and if you notice, she's got a purple ring under her. I think she's awesome. I think she's so awesome, I'm actually playing her. And that's how you can truly tell how awesome somebody thinks that a character is. If they're in their party, they must really, really like them. If they're like, yeah, that character is real awesome, and you ask them, well, why didn't you play him? Because they found somebody else they like more instead. And there's a lot of characters out there. We have varying opinions, so you're just hearing mine. Alright, so let's look over here. Her inventory slot holds a crossbow. That's pretty cool because a crossbow does 2 damage. And if you look at her blue, she gets +1 range damage. Going on to the yellow ability, +1 action, that's what everybody else gets. Orange, +1 ranged or +1 free ranged action. At first you're like, this one's pretty debatable. But then if you run the numbers a little bit, already she's at 4 actions. If she has the Orcish crossbow, which is going to be the weapon that we're going to put in her hand, she gets +1 die ranged. So if she shoots, reloads, shoots, she's used 3 actions and she's taken 6 dice. Or if you took +1 free ranged action, she would have to shoot, reload, shoot for 5 actions, and she would still be pumping out 6 dice. I would prefer to use 3 actions and get a free action, do whatever I want. Or pull up my trusty crossbow that I may have in my inventory slot and take another free shot. Alright, looking at red. Red is very versatile. I think she's got a lot of good choices here. +1 free combat action, she's got 2 better options than that. +1 combat die. If she took +1 die and +1 combat die, she'd be shooting 4 rounds with her Orcish crossbow. That's pretty awesome. But you always have to look at things at where you're at in the game. If you're getting swarmed because you're playing with a lot of A-bombs and periodically have to take shots with your friends in your cell, I would take +1 dice roll ranged. That way there's only a 16% chance you're going to hit your friends. I learned something. I was playing a rule a little bit wrong. When I missed with her, I would save with my friends if they had a save, and then put 1 damage on them. That is not the case. If you shoot your buddy with the Orcish crossbow and you got +1 ranged, your friend's dead. Well, they get their armor save, but if they don't get their armor save, they're dead. So this +1 dice roll ranged is pretty awesome if you're going to have to be shooting at A-bombs or something scary in your own cell. Because she could use it at melee, but if she used it as a melee, it would do 2 damage. It wouldn't be to kill an A-bomb. So she doesn't get access to marksman or anything like that. So I'm thinking if you got a lot of big monsters on the field, +1 dice roll ranged. If you're only playing one abomination, get some more dice in there. +1 free combat action's kind of meh. Alright, and that concludes my portion of the review. My friend's going to hop on in a second, and he's going to review Kalm, which I haven't looked at, so I'm excited to see this video too. Alright, thanks for watching.
Hey guys, so I'm just going to do a brief video on Kalm for Vermirian's channel. So basically he came as part of one of the Kickstarter, I guess, stretch goals, I think. And here's what his deal is. He is a barbarian. Now I picked him because of the way his mini looks, which is, it's gigantic. It's way bigger than any of the other ones, so of course I had to pick him as we're starting our the Wolfsburg expansion. But I really love the mini, and it comes with a cool oversized base, which I thought was just great, so I have to pick him. So what does a barbarian do? Let me see if I can get this. There we go. Barbarian. When resolving a melee action, the survivor may substitute the dice number of the melee weapon he uses with the number of zombies standing in the targeted zone. Skills affecting the dice value like +1 melee still apply. So in this particular case, he's starting out, and like with the starter weapon, he only gets 1 die. However, let's say that he's standing here, and so his first action he can move into here. Well, now suddenly, instead of using 1 die, he gets to use 1 die for each one of these. It's pretty self-explanatory, so let's just see how he does here. So he kills 3. So his second action he kills 3, and now his final action he would only get 3 because there's only 3, and he kills 2 more. So I guess he does need some more help because he's out of actions, right? So he needs someone to help him, but he did kill 5 in 1 turn, which is really good. So the other thing about him is he can put an axe in the slot, the armor slot. Axes are great, but you know, that's not really awesome. And the other stuff looks pretty standard. Ooh, he gets super strength at orange. I didn't know that. So he'll be able to kill most abominations except for I think the troll abomination once he's orange, no matter what he's equipped with. So anyway, that's Kalm, and what a great mini. I mean, look at the size of him compared to, let me grab someone else here. It's just so cool. Alright, so that's Kalm.